What I have here are pieces of Cinnabar crystals that came out of the mountainous regions of China. They were extracted out of the Cinnabar crystal or Cinnabar ore mines, the Mercury ore mines. This crystal is made almost entirely of sulfur and mercury. For those of you who've never seen mercury before, well, not everyone has, but it's the only metal on the periodic table that is completely a liquid at room temperature. And it comes from this crystal. This stuff right here is mercury. It is about 1 proton heavier than gold. Don't mind that stuff that's in there with it. That was part of an experiment. I wanted to see if it would interact with it somehow, and it did not. But that is this liquid silver metal. It's very toxic. I'm sure many of you have heard about mercury before, and you've been informed that it's deadly. It's very poisonous or toxic. And it is very toxic. You should not handle it without gloves. If you have any kind of cuts or injuries on your hands, you should not touch it. You shouldn't touch it very much at all in general. But yeah, it looks like liquid silver at room temperature. Very, very dense, heavy metal. If you had a large bucket full of this stuff, you could set a hammer in that bucket and it would float on top of the mercury. But that stuff, about 70 to 80% of the world's mercury supply is extracted out of this crystal through distillation. In fact, a lot of sulfur comes from this too. Sulfur is the yellow stuff that you find in the yolk of an egg. Now this video is for educational purposes only. Now what I have here is another form of mercury. This is a mercury amalgamation, or amalgam is what it's called, which is a fancy way of saying it's an alloy of mercury. It's two metals. It's mercury and at least one other metal combined, and this one happens to be mercury that has been combined with 24 karat gold leaf. Mercury will dissolve gold, and the gold will change its color and make it look like gold. In fact, they use mercury in the gold refining process. When they separate gold from the ore that is mined out of the gold mines, they break down the ore and separate impurities from it, and then they soak the ore in an industrial sized tank full of mercury so that the mercury will dissolve the gold, and then all that mercury is poured off into a giant system that basically evaporates all the liquid metal. All the mercury gets evaporated out of a separate tank, and when it gets evaporated and poured off into another container, so that the only thing left behind is the gold that settles at the bottom, that's been extracted and pulled out of the ore through the mercury, because mercury has this kind of almost magnetic like attractive force against gold. It will naturally absorb it. So all I had to do was put some 24 karat gold leaf into this bead of mercury, and it just soaked it in like a sponge. So now that's why it looks like it's a bead of gold. Yeah, that would be called a gold amalgam. Another type of amalgam that some of you may be familiar with are the mercury nickel amalgams that the dentist put in teeth fillings, or they used to anyway. But yeah, these are two different pieces of mercury that came from the same sample. But yeah, I figured I'd teach you guys a little bit about heavy metal chemistry today. Hope you enjoyed.